Hello, hello, everyone in Facebook land. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm going to give this a few moments for people to trickle on in. I haven't done an individual Facebook Live in a little while. So I just wanted to take a little time to hop on here and share a message with all of you. I'm not even absolutely sure of the exact message that wants to come through, but I did feel like hopping on here and just connecting with all of you, whomever you may be that hops onto this call. I trust that the message will be delivered to those who most need to receive it. Yeah. So I wanted to take this opportunity to just share with all of you a little bit about what's been going on with me, and hopefully that'll be of great value to you. And we'll see where this message wants to go. So the times that we are in right now, we are in some powerful, transformative times. And, I was on a phone call with one of my dear friends, Noah Lakshmi, who some of you may have seen the recent interview that her and me did together on the connection between health and wealth, and the spiritual connection between your health and your finances, and the financial aspect of health and the health aspect of finances or wealth. That was quite an amazing interview. And, we were having a conversation today because her and me are going to be leading an incredible private mastermind weekend together in San Diego in August. More details about that. We're going to be doing a lot of live trainings together to showcase the work that her and me are coming together to really bring in terms of health and wealth, and merging those two ideas to support people in their journey. So I was on the phone with her today, and we had an amazing conversation, as we do, just on life and what we're going through. And she's a world-class astrologer. And so she's always kind of charting the coordinates of what's going on in the cosmos and how that's affecting our individual experiences. And, we're just having such an amazing conversation. We were talking about what we've been going through, especially this week. We had a new moon last week. It was quite potent, and it still is very potent. And I know a lot of people are going through major processes, and that's the word I want to lead with, which is process. And I don't mean just like processing emotions and psychological residue and stuff, although that obviously is part of it. I want to talk about the nature of a process, because we're all in an alchemical process right now in our own interpersonal lives. It may be a process of up-leveling certain aspects of our lives or our lives as a whole. Nonetheless, we are in a process. And oftentimes, the process isn't clear. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of breaking down of old paradigms, old perspectives, maybe relationships, whether they're friends, business relationships, intimate relationships, things kind of breaking down that either need to be reassembled from a fresh blueprint, a fresh foundation, or they just no longer are serving us, and it's kind of time to move on to the next stage of life. Whatever you're experiencing and whatever you're going through, just realize that process. You're in a greater process than you realize. And, I'm right there with you. Right there with you in my process. My process has been pretty interesting, because it's very multidimensional. It's very it's interesting. It's hard for me to quite describe what it is like. It seems like every day it's a little bit different. Some days there's more pressure. It's almost like an evolutionary pressure that I feel building up inside my body. And then I have to go into a process to process the energy. Sometimes I just go and work out. I've been working out a lot, really focusing on my physical fitness. And that's been amazing for me. I'd say that the combination of the superfood lifestyle, the living foods lifestyle, the intermittent fasting, the spring water saturation, all the different things that I employ into my health and fitness routine has been incredible. I feel like I'm the fittest that I've been in at least a decade, for sure. And that's been amazing for me. That's been really great, because one of the things for me is that I need to feel in my body, right? I need to be in my body. And this is a very important thing to consider, is that whenever we're going through difficult times, we're going through things that are particularly confusing, we don't really know what's going on, the energy is intense, maybe we have a lot of mental stuff going on, our mind is scattered, maybe our emotions are a little unstable, we don't know how to quite place things in our life. One of the keys is to get in your body, is to become embodied, right? And that's really what the process is all about, is about embodying a higher quality of who we are, who we can become. It's not straightforward. It's not a straight line. If you look at the topography of the earth, meaning you're looking down on the earth, kind of like a bird's eye view or a God's eye view, and you're looking down from the heavens, so to speak, well, when you see the topography of nature, it doesn't move in straight lines. It zigzags. It's in spiral dynamics, right? It's in Fibonacci sequences. And there is a perfect innate order to the perceived chaos. And it is a perfect order. And it's hard to see that in our own lives when we're in the thick of it, right? But understand that whatever perceived chaos or disorder is taking place in your life, there is an implicate order built within it. There's always order in disorder, or order in chaos, all at the same time. One thing that I've realized over the years in my studies, in my own life experience, in my meditation, I've realized that whenever there's a lot of chaos in my life, there's things kind of breaking down, there's a lot of transitions, there's changes, that is an indication of transformation. That's an indication that I'm transitioning from one phase in my life into another phase in my life. And what ends up getting a lot of us in trouble is that when we are in that perceived chaos, when we're in that disorder process, we can get really, really in our head. We can get overrun by fear and doubt and concern and worry and all those things. Now, it's okay to feel those things, but you don't want to get stuck in it. You want to stay moving forward. You want to put one foot in front of the other the best you can. Even if it feels like you're walking through quicksand or you're walking through mud and it gets a little heavy, you want to keep your energy moving forward. How do you do that? You focus. You focus your energy, right? The quickest way to create more energy in your body is to focus. So then that begs the question, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the chaos? Are you focusing on the uncertainty? Are you focusing on the lack or the scarcity or the not enoughness? Or can you get yourself in a place where you can start to focus your mind on what it is that you want to achieve or what it is that you want to create in your life? That is principle number one, is where is your focus? Energy flows where attention goes, as the old saying goes. Energy flows where attention goes. And we can oftentimes get trapped in a mismanagement of our imagination. Albert Einstein said that one of the biggest problems in the world is a misuse of imagination, mismanagement of imagination. We've been gifted with profound powers of creation. It's borderline magical. And we can create anything out of these innate abilities that we have. So that begs the question as well, how are we using our imagination? Are we misusing our imagination and creating nightmares and limitations and challenges and obstacles for ourselves? And are we creating a harder situation in our life? Or are we shifting our focus to reach a higher vantage point, to see beyond those perceived challenges and to start going from impossibility thinking to possibility thinking? As simple and almost as obvious as that sounds, we need these reminders because it gets tough. And so if you find yourself more sensitive, more empathetic, more affected energetically, then I'd really advise you to be still and to kind of take a step back from whatever it is that you're caught up in and really focus on your breath. Because one of the quickest ways to get into your body is to focus on breath. Are you breathing shallowly right now? Just think about, as you're watching this, how are you breathing? Are you kind of doing this, like hyperventilating a little bit, kind of like that frenetic energy? Or are you pausing? Right? Quickest way to shift your energy is to focus on your breath, because your breath is a carrier wave for energy. You are the master of your own energy, but you have to learn to master your energy. And you start by the breath, right? The rhythmic cycle of your breath. Start that way. And as you breathe, get your body into it. Allow the breath to fill up from the duodenum up into, from the belly up into the respiratory system, and let it permeate your chest and fill your heart. Because the other thing that you're doing is you're filling your body with oxygen. Oxygenation is absolutely key. It's actually oxygen, the molecule of oxygen is one of our cell's primary sources of energy. So when we talk about cellular energy and metabolism, there's a whole bunch of stuff around the keto diet and using fat to break down into ketones as a viable source of metabolic fuel. Or maybe you're into like a higher sugar diet or a fruit diet, and we talk about glucose as a primary source of fuel for the cells. Well, guess what? Before any of that happens, before we get anything from food, our cells respire on oxygen first. And that's an aerobic, that's called aerobic metabolism. Anaerobic metabolism is something like a fungus or a viral organism, a bacterial organism, a parasite. They respire on aerobic metabolism, which is basically sugar fermentation. So it's the opposite. So what we actually want to do is become more aerobic in our metabolic cycle, and we start with breathing. Okay, we start with breathing, getting oxygen all throughout your cells, all throughout your organs and your glands, particularly into your cardiovascular system, and then channeling that up into the brain so the blood flow and the oxygen coming through the blood flow can get into the brain, so then you can have equanimity and stability of your mind. It's very, very challenging to have a clear head if you're deprived of oxygen. So you got to get that oxygen, that breath up into the mind, or not into the mind, but into the brain. The mind and the brain are not the same thing. We're not going to go into that. But you want to get oxygen flowing throughout your entire system. That's key. That's number one. The breath is a carrier wave for energy. So the way that you master your energy is by carrying the energy where you want it to go. Right? That's number one. And as you do that, what you will start to notice is that your sympathetic dominant nervous system, which is the stress, fight, flight, freeze response system, basically alerting you that there's a danger, there's a threat, there's something to be worried about, basically, which is how our nervous system is typically entrained into the sympathetic overload. If you find yourself in that state, and you're getting overloaded with that stress response, the best thing you can do to pattern interrupt that is to stop, pause, breathe, and focus on bringing peace to your body, bringing peace to your presence. And then you'll start to shift from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state, which is rest, relaxation, digestion, elimination, respiration, the autonomic functions, otherwise known as the automatic functions of your body. The things that you do involuntarily, the things that your body just does naturally. If you're in a hyper stress state, then you actually cut off the blood flow to your immune system, and your immune system actually decreases, and the cortisol in your body increases, and you actually can become really sick. This is why people say that stress is the #1 killer, because it literally shuts down your immunological function, and then these anaerobic organisms can get in and create havoc in the system, right? So, the breath, there's so many aspects of it. #2, now a lot of people aren't going to like this one. I've been harping about this for years. I've been on people about this, and I'm telling you, this is the most powerful pattern interrupt that you can possibly do. And that's getting into cold water. If you've been following me for a while, especially on my Instagram, I am a cold water advocate. That's called hydrotherapy. One of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself to shift your state, to shift your nervous system, is to get into cold bodies of water. That's why when I'm in nature, when I'm in Hawaii, the very first thing I do is I get right into the water. I get into the coldest river I can find, because what it does is it creates heat shock proteins, which are pretty important, and many other things. One of the most inflammation reducing things that you can do. But what it also does is it down regulates the sympathetic nervous system. It actually brings your body into equanimity by first shocking it and then bringing it into balance. Sometimes you have to shock your body to pattern interrupt it. It's just like if I'm on a coaching call with somebody, for example, and that person is deep in a process and they're running a story, meaning that they have like this story and this narrative going on, and it's just going on, and it's just in lack and limitation. They're just telling me all the reasons why things aren't working. It's my job to find an opening and to pattern interrupt, to interject, to somehow get in the middle of that, to interrupt that pattern, to break the story, disassemble it, and help that person come to a new level of clarity and get back to the truth. And the truth is that all the stories and narratives that we're running are all made up, imagined stories. They're just stories, right? But they're running all the time. It's programmed, it's entrained into us. How do we get out of that? We got to bring in some kind of shock treatment, right? Cold showers, one of the best things you can do. Every morning religiously, I get into a cold shower. It does not matter how cold the weather is. It could be snowing, and I will get into the cold shower, because it does two things. I don't necessarily want to get into the cold, so it trains me to do hard things that I don't want to do. That's #1. It disciplines me. But #2, whatever frenetic energy, whatever stories, whatever thought patterns, whatever's going on with me that is disharmonious, immediately when I get into that cold shower, the only thing I can think about, actually I can't think about anything, because immediately it drops me into my breath, and about 15 to 20 seconds of that, I'm completely shifted. I'm completely out of whatever muck I was in, and I'm back in balance. So that's principle #2, is pattern interrupt. Cold showers. I promise you, if you can get over the discomfort, you can get over whatever story you have about cold showers, just try it out. See what happens. Do it every day for a week. You can do cold, hot, but don't do hot, cold. Cold, hot. That's the key. Don't start off with comfort. Start off by getting uncomfortable, and then bring it back into balance by doing hot, but end it with cold. That's my recommendation. So that's principle #1 is the breath. Principle #2 is pattern interrupt via cold bodies of water, cold showers, cold rivers, whatever. Let's see, what else wants to come through? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. You know, it's so funny. It's so funny. Let's go back to this thing around the process. I want to talk about that. So we're in a process. We find ourselves in a process. What is the process? Who knows? I think it's a transformational process. I think it is an alchemical process where whatever doesn't serve us, whatever patterns, whatever situations that are in our life or within us that don't serve us, it's all coming up to the surface. One way or another, it has to come up to the surface because it's a form of detoxification. It's a form of cleansing. And the more you can surrender into the cleanse, you can ease into the detoxification process and not go back into old patterns, but kind of stay with it the best you can, the easier it's going to be to get on the other side of it. And what's on the other side of it, by the way, right? Why is this all happening? Why do we do all this work? Well, what's on the other side of it is a higher version of yourself. It's a greater capacity that you will begin to have to actually not just manage your own energy, but to master your energy. Because ultimately, my perspective is that the human experience is about growth, transformation, learning, and self-mastery. So that's the attitude that I take with everything. It's like, this is about mastery. Nobody said it's going to be easy, right? Anything worth having is worth earning. Anything worth having is you got to earn it, right? You know, there's nothing for free, so to speak. You got to put in the work. And the work isn't always like external. It's not always doing things. Sometimes the work is actually stepping back and working on yourself, working on your heart, working on your digestion, working on your health, working on your finances, working on your relationship, right? Whatever that work is, there is work involved, you know? And one of the questions that me and Noah were talking about, because we're doing this amazing mastermind weekend retreat for 15 people, a private training. And one of the things that we agreed upon is that this is going to be easy. This is not going to be hard, right? I've been so accustomed to in my life being such a warrior that I will power through situations, but I realized I don't want to always have to power through things in my life. I want things to be easy if possible. If it's not possible for it to be easy, then, you know, whatever, let's go. We're going to make it happen. But how can we make this easy? How can this be easy is a good question to start asking, because it's very likely that what we're trying to create and achieve, our goals, for example, there's multiple routes to getting to where we want to go, right? Well, the first thing is you got to know where you want to go, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, to quote Paul Chek. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So first you got to like have an idea of where you're going, right? Where do I want to go? Okay, cool. I have a destination. I have a goal. And so I can move in a direction. Okay, great. So is my strategy, or the way that I'm approaching that direction that I'm going, is that the only path there? These are good questions to ask yourself, because if you start hitting walls and road bumps and you start hitting resistance, that typically means that there might be an alternative route to get to where you want to go. Sometimes we get far along on the journey and then there's a wall, right? Most people hit the wall, they keep bumping up against the wall, and then they say, oh, this doesn't work. This isn't for me. It's not in alignment. You ever heard that? You ever said that? It's not in alignment. That may be true, and it may actually just be that you might need to just climb over the wall. Did you look up? Is there a rope? Is there something to put your hands on? Can you get over the wall? Or maybe there's a door on the end, on the right side of the wall that you didn't see because you were so focused on the one direction. Maybe there's a door over there that you can just slip over to and open it up. Maybe you can go around the wall, right? When I say wall, I'm saying the resistance, the obstacle, whatever faces you on your journey, whatever you're bumping up against, right? Maybe there's an alternative way to get to where you're going. Just an idea, just something to ponder, because one of the things that blocks us is our own limitations. And when I say limitations, I'm typically talking about a limitation in our own imagination. These are imagined limitations. Oftentimes we take reality at face value. We believe what's happening is, how should I say? Sometimes you have to look beyond the surface. You have to look beyond what's physically showing up in your life, and you have to sometimes take a step back so you can see all the pieces of the puzzle, right? Because you might only be a millimeter off. You might only be a couple steps away from where you want to go, but if you keep bumping up against your own perceived limitations, it's going to feel like it's impossible to get to where you want to go, right? This is really important. How are you thinking about your situation? How are you thinking about your life? How are you thinking about the goals that you want to achieve? Really important, don't you think? Really important, because in my life, I've noticed that almost every single thing that I've ever achieved or wanted to achieve didn't happen exactly the way that I thought it was going to happen, right? I could only see, as far as I could see in front of me. So I just keep moving, and then I can see a little bit further, keep moving, I can see a little bit further. But there's all kind of twists and turns on the road. So what this really, I guess kind of the best place to transition this thought is that ultimately what I'm getting at here is that you have to activate your intrinsic powers of intuition and instinct. One of the biggest challenges that we have in the socially engineered Western society is that we've lost connection with our instincts because we've lost connection with nature. See, when you're in nature for a while, you start to reconnect with your natural instincts. And what is an instinct? Well, an instinct is like you have an instinct about something. Like, for example, if you're an athlete and a really good athlete, you have an instinctual awareness about how to move, about let's say the defense in basketball or something. You know how to move, you know the patterns, right? You've done something long enough where it just becomes second nature. Well, guess what? Built inside your DNA and your genetics is an ancestral instinct about your own human experience. And even deeper than that, it's a soul instinct. If you can tap deep enough inside of yourself and you can develop the faith muscle, you can tap into this primordial kind of primal instinct, which actually helps guide you through the situations that otherwise, if you're trying to figure it out up here, you might just be bumping up against that wall, right? Wondering like, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Well, life is not made to be figured out mentally. The mind is like a heat-seeking missile. So you have to program the mind, but you have to lead with the heart. And to lead with the heart, you have to be in your body, right? So to activate your instincts, you have to get into your body, right? Another word for instinct is a gut intelligence. It's a guttural response. This is why microbiome research in gut health and digestive health is so important, because your intuition is not some ethereal type of mysterious thing. Your intuition is actually housed in your microbiome. That's a powerful, just right there. Just think about that. That is so powerful. Your microbiome actually has within it the intelligence of all that you are. It's your biological garden. It's your inner ecosystem. That's why you have to tighten up the microbiome. That's why you have to detoxify from things like glyphosate. And you have to saturate yourself and alkalize your body and remineralize yourself and rebuild that microbiome if it's been compromised, because that's where your intuition lies. Have you ever heard the phrase gut instinct? or a gut feeling. Like, oh, I have a gut feeling about that. Like if you're going into a business deal, or you're thinking about getting into a relationship, and everything looks good on paper, it like looks solid, but you just have a gut feeling that something's wrong. I can tell you right now, in my own life experience, 100% of the time, every single decision I made, when I had a gut feeling that something was off and I did it anyways, didn't work, didn't turn out good. I burnt out, lost money, lost relationships, whatever the situation was. I've suffered. I've had to suffer because ultimately I was trusting my mind, which was actually coming from fear, and I wasn't trusting my gut instinct. So as we're moving through these processes in our life, the guiding force is our gut instinct. It's our guttural intelligence. It's that intuitive navigation system, kind of like our inner GPS, right? It's your navigational system that's trying to reroute you every time you go off track. It's like, okay, I made a left turn. Oh, wait, I was supposed to stay straight, or I kept going. I was supposed to make a right turn. Well, guess what? Your GPS system will reroute you, but you got to listen to it. And that's why we take it back to how we started this call, or this video, which is the breath. Feel that. Feel that right now. One of my mentors and colleagues, and one of my friends, one of my heroes, one of the greatest philosophers of our time, Michael Tsarian, one of the great phrases that he has a lot of great phrases. One of them is that in order to hear the God force inside of you, you have to turn down the volume in your mind. He says that he says God force, which I agree with. That's what I related to. But let's just say your intuition or your higher self or whatever. It speaks to us by whispering to us. So he says that your higher self is not going to raise its voice. You have to lower your own dialogue up here. You have to lower the volume in your mind to hear the whispers of your soul, to hear the whispering of your spirit, because it's trying to guide us all the time. And oftentimes it guides us through emotions. It guides us through feelings, gut feelings. And we've been so trained to not trust ourselves. As a species, as a collective, as a society, we don't trust ourselves. And this is the bottom line. This is the crux of the matter, is that we have to start to actually trust ourselves and believe in ourselves. Because here's what happens. If you don't trust yourself and you don't believe in yourself, you will defer the responsibility to thyself, and you will give responsibility over. Look at the world we live in. What's going on? The medical establishment, the militarized war machines, the banking industries, the religious industries, the politics, right? Think about that word, politics. Poly meaning more than one, ticks, parasites, right? We defer our energy, we get our responsibility, we give our responsibility away to all of these institutions, ultimately because we don't trust ourselves. This is the plight of our current situation in society. This is why the institutions that oppose freedom are running rampant. You know, obviously there's a massive transition going on there, but the point is still the same, is that if we don't, how should I say, if we don't take responsibility for ourselves, somebody else is gonna take responsibility for us, and it may be that they don't have our best intent, they don't have our best interests in mind, right? We have to bestow responsibility onto ourselves, and the way that you do that is you start by the breath. I guess that's what I think. I mean, that's the best way to start anything. It's the best way to start your day. is to take those deep diaphragmatic breaths. Japanese research shows that you can bring hypertension back into balance, and you can bring your body back into a state of balance with 6 deep breaths. Six of those can interrupt any stress response pattern, and it's free, and it takes less than a minute, right? We don't need to run around and go external all the time and go outside of ourselves and try to find all the solutions to every little feeling that we have, every little discomfort that we have. No, you can turn the bodily alarm system off by just taking that breath, carrying your energy where to go, getting oxygen into the brain, and starting to think differently. The cool thing about this is that you can change your mind. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, how obvious is that? If you have these negative thoughts, it's like, oh my God, I'm like a victim to all these thoughts. No, you can change your mind. If you've changed your mind, we've all changed our mind about a whole host of things in our life. Change your mindset. Change the headset. It's not easy necessarily because we have built-in reinforced patterns, but the point is still the same, is that you can change your mind. You can change your state. You can change how you feel. And it just comes from consistency, doing these practices every day. Getting in the cold shower every single morning will change your life, I promise you. Change my life, change my health, change my state of feeling. Anytime I feel down or negative, I get in that water and boom, I'm back, and I want to get back on the mission. You know what I mean? It's that simple. So empower yourself with the reservation or the resources that you have inside of you. And this is what I work on with my clients in different ways. It's Life Mastery 101. So there you go. That's pretty much all I wanted to share. I didn't really think about any of this ahead of time, but there you go. Hopefully that was of value to all of you. Remember to breathe. Remember to pattern interrupt. You know, remember to take responsibility for how you feel. Take responsibility for your state. Do whatever you can to up level yourself. If you need to step back, step back. If you need to step in, step in. Whatever you need to do, you have the power. You have everything that you need built inside of you because you are a genius. You just need to activate your genius. So that's it from me, Ronnie Landis, signing off.